Islam. Gonna try to see if a few people join first. See if I got this right. Islam. First I rise and give praise to Allah and honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I would like to give honors to all past and present leaders of the Moorish Science Temple of America, as well as all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Today I would like to talk about, a very much needed topic that we should be discussing and, providing the proper narrative on, which is the sovereign citizens movement. A lot of people today are learning about their nationality by way of, people who are, under the sovereign citizen ideology, and today we have, Moors that are thinking that the sovereign citizens movement is, the movement where we learn about our nationality and free ourselves from the oppressive conditions here in America. And, we must be clear about exactly what are the sovereign citizens, who are they? And, some say that sovereign citizens is an oxymoron, or that, there's no such thing. You can't be a sovereign and a citizen. And, with proper understanding, we'll be able to see the truth of the matter. You know what I mean? It's very easy to get caught up in that way of thinking because so many people are teaching it, and nowadays people think that that's what the Prophet taught. They think that these teachings stem from the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, when in reality they are direct opposite of what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali teaches, and the way that he wanted us to move in the Moorish Divine and National Movement. So we must learn who and what the sovereign citizens are. Who are the sovereign citizens? So most schemes promoted by sovereign citizens aim to avoid paying taxes, ignoring laws, eliminating debts, or extracting money from the government. American sovereign citizens claim that the United States federal government is illegitimate. Sovereign citizens outside of the U.S. hold similar beliefs about their government of their countries. The movement can be traced back to American far-right groups such as the Posse Comitatus and the constitutionalist wing of the militia movement. While the sovereign citizen movement was originally associated with white supremacism and anti-Semitism, it now attracts people of various ethnicities, including a significant number of so-called African Americans. The latter sometimes belong to self-declared Moorish sects. The majority of sovereign citizens are not violent. However, the methods advocated by the movement are certainly illegal. Some have engaged in armed confrontation with law enforcement. The FBI classifies sovereign citizen extremists as domestic terrorists. So this is important, that we identify the origin of the sovereign or the sovereignty teachings, and associated with whom founded those movements and those teachings and practices. Moving on, this is a picture of William Potter Gale. He was an active member of several white supremacy groups, including Christian Identity and the Posse Comitatus. He is tied to Aryan Nations, Church of Jesus Christ, Christian, the Sovereign Citizen Movement, and the Militia Movement. Roger Elvick claims he has liberated his straw man. Does that sound familiar? A secret doppelganger created by the U.S. government to capture the economic value of U.S. citizens. These are some of the founders of the Sovereign Citizen Movement that I encourage you guys to look up and become familiar with. The Redemption Movement is founded upon Elvick's outer limits postulation that for every birth certificate issued in the U.S. since 1936, Social Security Act, the federal government deposits $630,000 in a hidden bank account linked to the newborn American. Redemptionists claim that by executing a series of arcane legal maneuvers, a person may entitle themselves to the money held in the name of the phantom entity created at their birth, and may then access these funds with sight drafts, better known to business owners and prosecutors as bogus checks. Elvick also encourages redemption enthusiasts to harass enemies with phony property liens and IRS reports designed to provoke audits. Right here, we haven't even begun to get that far into the presentation, and we can see that these are all things that are now being taught by Moors with fezzes and turbans. And as it's stated, that these things came from sovereign citizen groups, or better known as white supremacy groups. So it's just funny how we would think that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali would teach the same things as so-called white supremacy groups. It says that Elvick started spreading his vision in the 1980s when he was the national spokesperson for Committee of the States, a white supremacist group Elvick started with William Potter Gale, who had previously founded the Posse Comitatus, a violent anti-Semitic organization. By 1990, redemption groups advised by Elvick were active in 30 states and several provinces of Canada, and had tried to pass more than 15 million in bad checks. Elvick was eventually convicted of personally passing more than 1 million in sight drafts, and in a separate case of filing fraudulent IRS forms. He spent most of the 1990s in federal prison. But while he was incarcerated, the redemption movement lured ever-growing legions of anti-government extremists with the combined promise of free money and a chance to attack the federal government with paperwork instead of guns. And, this is sounding very familiar. I hear Moors all the time saying these very same things word for word. That, we're attacking the government with paperwork instead of guns. That's how we fight back, and claiming that we can, cash in on our birth certificates or social security cards and, things of that nature. And, it's just crazy at this point. Moving on. After Elvick was released, he started holding expensive seminars where he instructed redemption acolytes. It wasn't long before he was back in big trouble. Elvick was indicted on multiple felony counts in Ohio in August 2003. During preliminary hearings, Elvick frustrated court officials by denying his identity, claiming the court had no jurisdiction over him or his straw man, and constantly interrupting with unfathomable questions about procedure. And that is the very same thing that a lot of Moors who are learning about their nationality, they think that this is the Moorish way. They think that these are the teachings of nationality and proclaiming your nationality and freeing yourself from the oppressive conditions here in America. And as we can see, this was being done by European sovereign citizen groups, who were also in white supremacist groups. I don't know if there's a difference between the sovereign citizen groups and the white supremacist groups. I think that, I may stand to be corrected, but I think they are one and the same. It says that a judge ruled Elvick mentally unfit to stand trial and committed him to a correctional psychiatric facility where he was diagnosed with an unclassified mental disorder and underwent 9 months of treatment before facing trial. Elvick then surprised prosecutors by changing his plea to guilty. When asked if he wished to address the court at his sentencing, the usually ferocious Elvick replied simply, "I have nothing to say." This is another one of the, larger influencers in the sovereign citizen movement. His name is John David Van Hove, also known as Johnny Liberty. In May 30th, 2006, John David Hove, also known as John Liberty, was sentenced to 27 months in prison, to be followed by 3 years of supervised release for his role in a tax fraud and wire fraud scheme. Van Hove previously pleaded guilty to 1 count of corruptly endeavoring to obstruct and impede the administration of the tax laws and 1 count of wire fraud before U.S. District Judge David Allen Ezra in the United States District Court for the District of Hawaii. As part of the sentence, the court ordered Van Hove to pay restitution of approximately $400,000 to investors that he defrauded. These investors were from the states of Hawaii, Washington, Arizona, and New York. Van Hove was also ordered to pay restitution by the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, based on income he received as a result of producing promotional materials for the Institute of Global Prosperity. The tax-related obstruction offense to which Van Hove pled guilty arose out of activities related to a financial planning and investment advice business he operated from the islands of Maui, Hawaii, as alleged in the indictment returned April 7, 2005. According to the documents filed with the court beginning in 1997, Van Hove offered his clients various schemes for hiding income and assets from the IRS, to include the use of common law trusts. I know this sounds very familiar, and we must be clear again that these teachings are not from the Prophet or the Moorish Science Temple of America or the Moorish movement. These teachings all stem from the European sovereign citizen movements. It says to conceal ownership and control assets and income. And I still hear Moors till this day saying that, we got to learn about trust law, and, you want to, how do you say it? You want to own it but not have your name on it or something like that, just to where you can't be taxed or nobody can mess with your businesses or your money and things like that. But if you wish to read the rest of that, then I hope you go back and watch it. Again, this is from the Global Sovereign's Handbook by Johnny Liberty. I once heard a brother, who was given a class on this, talk about the Johnny Liberty Handbook. And I looked it up, and I found a PDF, and it is very disturbing how word for word the things that the Moors are teaching nowadays, not the Moorish Science Temple of America, but individual Moors and some groups that have formed over the years are now teaching things that I can look up in this book and find it word for word that this book says the same thing. And this book is a European sovereign citizens book. And now, Moors who are talking about nationality and birthrights and freedom are now saying these very same things. So I took screenshots and, grabbed a few just so we can show that this is exactly what the Moors are saying nowadays. And it's, it's imperative that we know that these are not our teachings. And it says, a person is not by definition the same as a natural born individual human being. Your birth certificate is an unrevealed trust instrument that created a legal fiction in the same name as you were given by your parents, except that the trust was named in all capital letters. I know that this is sounding very familiar to the Moors who, like myself, joined the movement under the sovereign citizens' teachings. Talking about that name is not me, that's my straw man, and you see how it's in all capital letters. I used to say these very same things. Talking about corporations or persons and things like that. It says this legal fiction was effectively conceived and placed in commerce with the Federal United States Incorporated from your birth date, which is the birth of the trust, not you as a natural-born human being. After 1913, you became a beneficial holder in the Federal Reserve banking system, subject to the income taxes and other encumbrances for receiving a benefit from the government. Excuse me. And it's hard for me not to state every time I come across something that, we hear the Moors saying nowadays, that this is exactly what we are saying nowadays, and claiming it to be Moorish. And it is definitely not. Moving on, U.S. citizens do not own their motor vehicles. As trustee, the states hold the true title and has legal ownership in the property. You get a certificate of title that certifies that you are a beneficial holder. The legal owner has the right to require the beneficial holder to get it registered with state-issued plates, have a state-issued driver's license, and insurance. And this is, it's word for word what you hear from the Moors nowadays. And that is just, is unbelievable, to say the least. Moving on. This is also from that same book. We, the people, and our political leaders have unwittingly sold out our country, our freedoms, and our children for future privileges, benefits, temporary entitlements, and the short-term success of a privileged few. U.S. citizens are not citizens at all, but subjects and property of the District of Columbia. Again, those of the Moors that have labored under the sovereign citizens ideology, we say these very same things, and we think that they came from Prophet Noble Drew Ali, which is just, very not true. It is absolutely incorrect. And I want to, state for the record that I'm not showing these things so we can take them to be true. These are not true teachings. These teachings have led to, illegal activities, have led, to people going to jail, even losing their lives. As we can see in recent times, we've had multiple encounters with Moors who are, proclaiming these teachings, and it has ended up with, some violent interactions with the police and some non-violent, but it is all stemming from a place of, misunderstanding. These teachings that I'm reading from now are not true. They are not in line with the Constitution or in line with any of the laws of the United States of America. These are teachings that were made up by people who spread these teachings, and now people are believing them to be true and acting on them erroneously. So it says U.S. citizens are not citizens, but the property of the District of Columbia. You will discover that the Constitution for the United States and the Bill of Rights does not apply to U.S. citizens. U.S. citizens are subjects and property governed under statutory, admiralty, and maritime law. That is just as clear as day that these teachings that are from European sovereign citizens are now being word for word spread by Moors with turbans and fezzes. And we have to bring people into the awareness of where these teachings come from and to show them the difference. So I won't get caught up too long on these. You can, pause it and go back after the end of this video. But I'll continue. This is, I gathered some of the teachings from the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who founded the Moorish Science Temple of America, also known as the Moorish Divine and National Movement. The mission statement of the Moorish Science Temple of America is to uplift fallen humanity, also to teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. The organization started as a civic organization, and civics deals with the rights and responsibilities of citizens. So nowadays we hear Moors talking about how, we're not citizens, and, citizen is a slave, and things of that nature. And, that's directly opposed to what the Prophet taught and, what he brought in the Moorish movement. I got a few, screenshots and things that, prove what the Moorish Science Temple of America teaches, to show the difference. You know what I mean? It says that, one of the mission statements was to uplift fallen humanity. And here on the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali, by the guiding of his father God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his father God Allah. Some of us have been, taught that fallen humanity is only the Moorish Americans who, during slavery, lost their identity and things like that, and were labeled Negro, black, colored, etc. We think that, uplifting fallen humanity only has to do with the Moors, when fallen humanity is talking about all of humanity, even though a big part of fallen humanity is the Moors, the fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America. This picture to the side is from the Holy Quran. I believe that is chapter 2. It says, "Teach them that Allah and man are one, but that through carnal thoughts, words, and deeds, man tore himself away from Allah, debased himself. teach that the holy breath would make them one again, restoring harmony and peace. This is the teachings of uplifting fallen humanity and, what we are uplifting humanity from. It says through carnal thoughts and words and deeds, man tore himself away from God Allah. And carnal is, some of the definitions for carnal is, worldly, not spiritual, sinful, so it's redeeming man from his sinful ways. Due to sinful thoughts and words and deeds, man tore himself away from God. That's basically, a quick explanation of that. The next picture is from chapter 3. It says, he who knows well his lower self knows the illusions of the world, knows of the things that pass away, and he who knows his higher self knows Allah, knows well the things that cannot pass away. Thrice blessed is the man who has made purity and love his very own. He has been ransomed from the perils of the lower self and is himself his higher self. And then below, this is a quote from our prophet. He said, this is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. So when we hear Moors talking about, oh, we ain't got to have no driver's licenses, the government has been overthrown from the republic, and this is we're supposed to be freeing ourselves from the Europeans and things like that. The prophet was clear when he said that he was sent by Allah and founded this movement to redeem our people from our sinful ways. So we must be clear on what this movement is dedicated to and see the difference in the teachings. I have went through all of the prophet's teachings. He has never said some of the things that we've said about the government and, about, a lot of the slides that I've shown before that Moors are teaching nowadays. That stuff did not come from the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I'm going to keep going. This is, on the left, these are two separate Moorish Guide excerpts, but it says, Moorish Guide newspaper, Friday, August 28th, 1928. It's titled The Organization's Growth, Enormous Temples in All Principal Cities. I just took a short excerpt from there. It says, this religious organization is secured and safeguarded by the very Constitution of the United States, for in reality, it makes of the ordinary man or woman a better citizen, for they realize what citizenship means. It teaches loyalty to the nation and the deepest respect for law and order. This is the exact opposite of what the sovereign citizens teach, because they don't believe that the government has jurisdiction to make laws and rules, and they say that we're not citizens, that a citizen makes you a slave. But the Prophet and the Moorish Science Temple of America teach that in the organization we will realize what citizenship means, because obviously we have a misunderstanding about that. On the right, there is a picture from an old Moorish Guide newspaper talking about how, the Moors were going to vote for Lewis B. Anderson, the alderman of Chicago. I'll read just a little bit. It says, to begin with, the citizens of the Second Ward in their hearts and conscience will be governed by the truth relative to Alderman Lewis B. Anderson's qualification. The citizens of the Second Ward know that as a progressive race we indicate to other races our appreciation for high standards only insofar as we support and honor the men and women of our race who have demonstrated intelligence, ability, efficiency, and constructive leadership in their chosen fields of endeavor. We point with pride to their records and teach our children to emulate their noble qualifications. So from this we learn that the prophet had the Moors participating in the political affairs of this government. That's a key part of being, a citizen and being a better citizen, because, our people are the least, we do not participate in politics or with voting, at all of the state and, local, state, and national levels. But when the prophet came, he taught us the importance of this. He taught us how to be better citizens, because without participating, then we have no real power. You know what I mean? And I'll continue. This is on the left. This is just a screenshot of another Moorish Guide newspaper article, and touching on the same things about citizenships and our participation in the politics and things of that in this government. It says, Friday night at Unity Hall, 3140 Indiana Avenue, in an effort to resist all opposition, if any, which might be directed towards the displacement of a great champion in the city council, Louis B. Anderson, whose ability as a city father has been marveled at by the entire populace of Chicagoland. The battle cry in Alderman Anderson's camp is to use the most reliable weapon, one which will soon overcome camouflage or any other remote tactic, and that is his record. Most prominent among Anderson's supporters is Prophet Noble Drew Ali of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Declared he and his 3,000 members were for Louis B. Anderson. And, again, this is what it means to take part in citizenship. This is what it means to actively play a part in the affairs of men, addressing our issues and doing what it takes to make changes for our people in this government. Also, another screenshot of the Moorish Guide newspaper, another article titled All Registering. Says the 3,000 Muslims of the Grand Temple and the West Side Temple are making ready to register every man or woman in order to take the lead for the various candidates whom they have been instructed to vote for. Again, we must be clear on what the prophet taught and see the difference. One teaching from the sovereign citizen says that the government is illegitimate and that they have no jurisdiction and that they're tricking everybody. And then, in the Moorish Science Temple of America, the prophet taught that we were voting for people to be in office in this government. And, he was giving us tactics and ways in which we were supposed to go about, bettering our condition in this government and becoming better citizens. It says Alderman Louis B. Anderson, Honorable George W. Blackwell, Honorable Oscar DePriest, Honorable Robert H. Jackson, all working through the regular Republican organizations of which the Honorable Daniel M. Jackson is our matchless leader. All know the situation, the whole situation, and have their own way and time to give the order to go. The Muslims will be ready. So right off the bat, this is just showing that these are two totally different teachings. They're complete opposites. One is hot and one is cold. There's no similarities in either of the teachings, And one of the most important teachings of the Moors is to our people that we are not Negro, black, or colored. In my experience in coming into the movement and learning through the sovereign citizens ideology, once Allah had guided me to the Moorish Science Temple of America and, where I learned the true teachings of the Prophet, I realized that I was out here, trying to fight court cases, doing all these things, trying to, get property and teaching our people certain stuff about how the government was tricking us and all of these things. And the only thing that actually came from the prophet that I was doing and saying was that our people are not Negroes, black people, or colored folks, etc. And it's important that we realize that nowadays the sovereign citizens' teachings are adopted by Moors, and now Moors think that those teachings are the teachings of nationality and freeing ourselves, which is absolutely incorrect. Act 6 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws states that with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians. Because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name, to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Those are the teachings of the prophet. Those do not, make us think that we're supposed to be separate from the government, that we're not a part of this government. He actually says that we are part and partial of this government. So, we must be clear, and learn the true teachings. That's why I encourage all the Moors who know that they are Moors, who believe it in all their heart that we are Moorish, to join the Moorish Science Temple of America and learn the true teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Learn the true Moorish way, because a lot of these things Moors have never heard, I didn't hear anything that came from the Prophet, and I was out there, doing everything under the sun, thinking I'm filing affidavits and, going to, claiming the government had no jurisdiction over me, trying to get my job to, stop taking taxes out and, telling stores that I'm tax exempt and things like that. And none of that stuff comes from the Prophet or his movement. On the right, I have screenshotted a slide from another presentation on this very same topic. And this is, from the Office of Management and Budget, the Federal Directive 15 on race and ethnic standards for federal statistics and administrative reporting. And it defines all of the different races that we hear about here in America. It says American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian or Pacific Islander, Black, Hispanic, White, and these not in the Office of Management and Budget Federal Directive 15. It states that these are not based on scientific information. These are made up. It's based on the color code system of race. And as we can see, some of these definitions we've never heard, and we didn't know that the government was going based off these definitions. So if you're clicking or checking one of the race boxes, this is what you are saying that you are. The most important ones are the black and white. definitions, because that's, really what racism stems from. That's the main thing you hear when you talk about racism. You hear about the black and white, from slavery and so on. Excuse me. So black is defined as a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. White is defined as a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, North Africa, or the Middle East. So right off the bat, some of these things aren't making sense, For example, American Indian or Alaska Native, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North America and who maintains cultural identification through tribal affiliation or community recognition. Asian or Pacific Islander, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of the Far East, South Asia, the Indian subcontinent, or the Pacific Islands. But when we go to black, it says a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. But all of the other definitions say, a person having origins in the original people of a specific place. But black doesn't say that. It says a person having origin in any of the black racial groups of Africa. And as, one of our good brothers stated that, we learned early that you can't define a word using that same word, so it becomes a non-definition. You can't use black to define black. You know what I mean? And it just doesn't make any sense why the other races that are listed talk about people having origins in an original people. Only the black people, so-called black people, are stated to not have origins in any original people. And then white, this is confusing as well, because in these days and times, we believe white to be somebody who has pale skin, blonde hair and blue eyes. We think that is what everybody knows to be a so-called white person. But according to this definition, it is a person having origins in Europe, North Africa, or the Middle East. But nowadays, that's not how people see it. People only see it how, society has come to understand it. But in the government statistics, this is how it is defined. So that is how it is actually, that's how we actually go off of it in the government, So somebody from North Africa could be as dark as can be, but come and take citizenship in America, and they'll be classified as white. And same with somebody from Arabia. They can come over here and they will be classified as white regardless of their skin complexion. That's not what these are based on. So we must be clear that, the prophet did teach us that we are not Negroes, black, or colored. That is not the name of our people before slavery. And it's important that we understand that, our people do have a name and a place that they come from, and black does not attach you to anywhere. Mexicans come from Mexico, Germans from Germany, Chinese from China. Black is not attached to anywhere. This is important because nowadays we hear about African American. That also is incorrect because of the fact that in Africa there are 54 nations. So you wouldn't be African American, you would either be Nigerian American, one of the nations of Africa. That is what you would be. You wouldn't just be an African. You know what I mean? That's something that our people need to understand, and it's very much important that we teach our people that these names were given to us during slavery, And after slavery, we had no idea who we truly were or the history of our forefathers. So that is why, our prophet came to us to teach us these things, to return us back to the names and principles and ways of life of our forefathers, so we didn't continue to, suffer under this mental slavery and, this whole identity crisis. I'm going to move on. I think this might be the last slide. This is from the Holy Quran and the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the Prophet. Chapter 47, instruction 9 says, according to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the Holy Land of Canaan. And it also says that what our forefathers were, we are today without doubt or contradiction, So even though we went into slavery and lost the name of our people and, the knowledge of who we were, that does not stop us from being those same people. So when we wake up to the fact that we're not Negro, black, and colored, we are to go back to the name of our people, to the religion and the customs that our people used to live by, instead of taking on other people's customs and going by names that have no attachment to the human race. You know what I mean? So that being said, there was so much more information that I could have provided about the sovereign citizen movement and, the things that are very similar that you hear word for word coming from the Moors today. But I didn't think it was necessary to go into all of that because of the fact that, it would have taken up so much time to go through all of that. And if possible, I can, I can send you a copy of the PDF of the Sovereign Citizen book, not for you to use to your advantage, but to see the fact that these things are now being taught by Moors. That is just, it's appalling to everyone. The Prophet did not approve of these teachings, and, neither should we. We should know that he didn't teach any of those things and, see the result of those teachings. Nowadays people are going to jail, losing their houses and properties because they're claiming that they don't have to pay bills. They don't have to abide by the laws, Some of our, dear brothers and sisters have actually lost their lives due to these teachings. And, the fact that they were so dedicated, I'm speaking from experience, because when I was laboring under these false teachings that came from the sovereign citizens movement, I was dedicated to freeing our people and teaching our people the truth so that we can better our condition, not knowing that those teachings were actually adding to the suffering that we were going through, because, man, it's very important that we see the difference, and it's very heartbreaking, to see our people going through this. And nowadays, since I've turned away from those teachings and I see people, still teaching those things and doing those things, I feel it is my duty to tell them, like, hey, man, I too used to say the same things. I used to do those very same things, and they don't work. They end up badly, and they didn't come from the Prophet. So it's important that we share, the information that was provided today about, who the sovereign citizens were, what their teachings were, what was the reason that they taught those things. You know what I mean? And share the words of the Prophet. That is why I created this group, to show the difference. I've been posting the Prophet's teachings in this group for at least like 3 years or so. And I have never once found in the Prophet's teaching anything even similar to those things that are coming from the sovereign citizen teachings. And this is what we must show people. We must steer our people away from those teachings. It's very important that everybody knows that the sovereign citizens are they're anti-government. They don't believe in the jurisdiction of the government, or us being a part of the government. And that's just not true. They wanted to separate themselves from the government. And our people, as Moorish Americans in the Moorish Divine and National Movement, have never been taught that. That is not the way that the Prophet said we should go about it. He always told us, clearly that we are citizens and that we are to take our place in this government and be law abiders. And go back to the ways of our forefathers who founded the first civilization. He stated that if his principles were carried out in this government, that this would be one of the most civilized and prosperous governments of the world. Imagine that. That is totally different than saying, oh, the government is illegitimate and we're not a part of it. You know what I mean? And talking about the birth certificate and social security number, I'm trying to go through some of the comments that I wasn't seeing. Yes, a brother said that, the Prophet told us to worship under our own vine and fig tree. And that's correct. And in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we do that. And we're also American citizens. He did not say to separate from the government, meaning that you separating from the government and starting your own government is you being under your own vine and fig tree. He said that this is our government. This is not a European government. It's not founded on European Christianity or anything like that. This is our government. We too are part and parcel of this government, just like all other citizens of this government. And this is what the Prophet told us. A brother said there's been no mention of the sovereign citizen, yet only redemption movement. Brother, the redemption movement is the sovereign citizen movement. Let's go back. Okay, it says Elvick started with William Potter Gale, who had previously founded the Posse Comitatus, a violent anti-Semitic organization. These are the people who founded the sovereign citizen movements. It's not called the sovereign citizen movement. It's called the redemption movement, the Posse Comitatus, etc., etc. And it says that the movement can be traced back to American far-right groups. That is where these teachings come from. We must be very sure when it comes to these things, because nowadays we're teaching them as if they are the absolute truth, and nothing can be further from the truth. These things have nothing to do with Moorish identity, freeing yourself from the oppression. The Prophet teaches us how to free ourselves from the oppression, and he never taught anything even close to these teachings. You know what I mean? It's very important that we realize that. Islam. Yes, if you are following and teaching these things and saying these things, then you are not following the Prophet. You are following Roger Elvick and Johnny Liberty. Islam, I'm going through the comments. Islam, somebody said control it but don't own it. Yes, that is exactly, coming up with all types of schemes and tactics to get free stuff, free land, free houses, The prophet said that he purchased property for the Moorish sign symbol of America. That's directly opposite of what I was taught when I first joined the movement, that we got to take our land back with the law, and that, we were going up in houses and filing affidavits and saying that this is now our property, starting temples and claiming that it's now under the ownership of the temple. And, I lost literally, I lost my car, I lost my job, my credit was, made horrible after me working so hard to get it up. All dealing with the teachings of we don't pay bills because they stole the land, and things like that. It's crazy how these teachings that I've just showed evidence come from European white supremacy groups are now being taught by Moors with whole heart and dedication to these teachings. It's so bad that now that we try to teach our people after we've experienced these same things and went and did these things, we try to teach our people that no, those aren't our teachings, those teachings are false. Now they are so caught up in it that they don't want to hear nothing about that. Oh, you're an agent. Oh, you are against your people if you are saying anything is wrong with these teachings coming from our people. Islam is very important that we we turn away from these kind of teachings, because look at what's going on, especially with our beloved brother Corey Bey in Texas. I looked at a few things that he had put out, and some of the information that he was putting out, it stems from the sovereign citizen movement. You know what I mean? And they, the sovereign citizens are the ones who taught about the illegitimate government, the government being fraudulent and creating all of these things to trick all of the citizens into becoming property and things like that, and it's easy to believe. One, because our people who are so-called black have been, under oppressive conditions here in the United States of America. So it's easy to believe these things. That's why I believed it, because I was like, wow, our people are not getting what their due share. We're getting the short end of the stick. So that is why I was so ready to jump on board with the, something similar to the Black Power movement. We got to liberate our people and teach them the truth to get them to, be able to live a better life. But these teachings will not lead to a better life. The Prophet's teachings, no doubt, they have bettered so many people's lives, so much to where our entire being is different. Our entire worldview, our entire way of living has been changed for the better. And it's very important that, we spread his teachings and not the teachings of European sovereign citizens that will make you go to war with the government and lead to, all types of destruction in, the civilized society. The Moorish Science Temple of America is where we learn the true teachings of nationality, is where we learn the true teachings of our divine creed, and the ways to be better citizens, to be recognized and not oppressed in America. This is where we must go to learn the truth. It's very important. I'm go through a few more. Islam. The brother said Brother Tyree Bey copied and pasted European white supremacist teachings, and that is evident to me because I was studying hours and hours and hours of Brother Tyree Bey's videos, and literally I can find all of the things that he was saying word for word in the Sovereign Citizen's Handbook. That's just what it is. It's not to say that the brother is not my brother or that I don't love and respect him, and it's not to the point to where we're against our brothers and sisters who teach this. We are with them. We just want them to get the true teachings of our prophet so they can benefit like we are benefiting, and so that they don't lead people to the detriment and suffering that all of our people are being led to when teaching and practicing these sovereign citizen teachings. Go through a couple more comments. The brother said the European did steal the land. I am not, I'm not negating the fact that there were wars fought and our people lost the war. But if we are to teach the true teachings of the prophet, he taught us that the Europeans and Moors and Mexicans and Greeks, Italians, Japanese and Chinese, all in America, we are American citizens. So with that being said, we must give back those sovereign citizen teachings, which are all incorrect and false, and stemming from a place of of nothing good. They didn't come. The reason that they taught those things were because they were upset with the government. The prophet came, and what he taught about the government is that he was going to make the government better. We are helping the government. We're going to bring the government up. And the way we are going to do that is by being better citizens. Imagine all of our people here in America, and we haven't been being good citizens according to the constitutional standard. The prophet said day by day we have been violating the Constitution by claiming names and principles that allude to slavery, or are just unconstitutional. But imagine all of our people here in America learning how to be better citizens, actually participating in government functions and uplifting our communities, in the proper ways. Imagine how much better this government will be when we do that. It's very important that we see, the possibilities that we have when accepting and practicing the prophet's teachings and following his lead. The prophet was ordained by Allah. That's who we were sent as a guide. And we should follow him. We should not follow people who are saying things that are contrary to or contradictory to what he taught. Citizens are property. Yeah, that's just not true, my brother. Sovereign citizen is not a nationality. Of course it is not. Just the other day, our brother gave the Black's Law Dictionary of sovereign people. And let me look it up really quickly. I believe I have it in my notes. Okay. The definition of sovereign people is the political body consisting of the entire number of citizens and qualified electors, who, in their collective capacity, possesses the power of sovereignty and exercises them through their chosen representatives. That is what a sovereign people is here in America. It is we the people, meaning, as Moorish Americans, we're not about sovereignty in the MSTA or the Moorish movement, because our sovereignty comes from our vote as American citizens, which we are striving to be recognized at and striving to take our place in those affairs. So when we go back and see things like this, the prophet having us vote for aldermen of our city, and registering over 3,000 members to vote in this government, that is what the sovereignty is in America. Using your power, which is in your vote, to elect representatives into office, and to have them make specific changes for the betterment of the people. That's very important, because people are mad when we talk about sovereign and citizen, saying they don't go hand in hand. Well, in all actuality, sovereignty and citizenship go hand in hand. We're not individually sovereign. The people of America, of the government, the people are the sovereigns. And they exercise their sovereign power through voting. And that's what the prophet taught us to do. So basically, he was telling us that we are a part of this, and he showed us how, how these things could be used to our benefit. How voting, we could elect people in office that were going to address specific needs of our people. And everybody that we voted for during the time of the prophet with those 3,000 Moors, all of them got elected. So the prophet's mission was successful. He showed us how to do it and showed us that it could be done successfully. I don't know if probably taking up too much time, and just be careful of the teachings that you are following, because one leads up and one leads down. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? And we have to be informed of these things. I know it is hard for us to believe, because we have been teaching and practicing these things for years. Some longer than others. It is drilled in us. But we must undrill it. We must unscrew it and screw in what the prophet taught. People be like, oh, you talking about the prophet this and the prophet that? Yes. He is the founder of this Moorish movement. He taught us how to move in this movement. Nothing needs to be changed or added in modern times, respectfully. And, man, if we follow it, follow his teachings and the game plan that he set forth, no doubt our people can save themselves. We can be recognized as Moorish Americans without filing paperwork and, things like that. We can be recognized and respected, and we can uplift our people unmolested. We can cast our vote unmolested. We can be a part of this government and take part in, making or amending laws and, et cetera, et cetera. It's all very clear. The prophet left his footprints clearly cut. And if we wish to, proclaim our nationality and to better our condition, then we must join a subordinate temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America. That is where the saving power is. That is where our salvation lies. And that's where we need to be. We need to, direct our people to the Prophet's organization. Allah ordained the Prophet to found this organization. Why are we not in it? How are we saying we're true Moors and true Moorish Americans, and we're not in the Prophet's organization where the true work is being done? With that, I would like to give honors to all who, tuned in and will tune in, and, this shouldn't be the last that we touch on this topic. We should be pumping this information to the public to make it known that those teachings are not connected in any way, shape, or form to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, to Moorish Americans, or to, nationality or freedom, birthrights, etc. None of that. Those things that are being done or taught by Moors with L or Bey on their names, none of those things are associated with this movement, because this movement is about uplifting fallen humanity and teaching those things necessary to make our members better citizens. With that, I say peace, Islam to everyone.